Welcome to Soulful Charts, the channel where we spotlight the success of soulful music based on their chart performances on Billboard. The name of this series, it sounds like a #1 hit. And in this series, I tell the stories of #1 R&B hits of the past and their rivals, other R&B songs that made it into the top 10, songs that woulda, coulda, or shoulda reached the #1 spot on Billboard's R&B charts, but didn't. In this episode, we're going back to April 1990. Troop had a #1 R&B hit with Spread My Wings. Babyface had a top 5 R&B hit with Whip Appeal. Both songs battled on the Soulful Charts of R&B music in the spring of 1990. Take a front row seat as we remember these two hits. Before we talk about Spread My Wings, let's do some musical history on the career of Troop preceding the song's release. Troop is a group from Pasadena, California, who were signed to Atlantic Records. The group released their self-titled debut album in 1988. The album's first single, Mamacita, peaked at #2 on the R&B charts. Gerald Levert and Mark Gordon, both a part of the R&B trio Levert, co-wrote and co-produced Mamacita. From the moment the drum track starts, you can hear the Levert influence. The fingerprints of Levert's signature style is all over Mamacita. The song is really signature 80s R&B, a sound in which Levert was prominent purveyors of in the late 80s. The song is a nice club record, though looking back, I'm actually a little surprised that it peaked as high as #2 on the R&B charts. Troop scored another top 10 R&B hit, My Heart, written and produced by Chucky Booker, as well as a top 20 R&B hit, Still in Love. Both were featured on the group's debut album. Now let's talk about My Heart for a moment. Just as with Mamacita, My Heart is the kind of record in which you can immediately connect its sound with its producer. Chuck Booker was an active songwriter and producer during the 80s, and he had a short solo career in the late 80s through the early 90s. My Heart peaked at #9 on the R&B charts. It's a well-produced record. It has a fuller sound than Mamacita, more musicality. It's an up-tempo record, a groove. Troop showcased more of their vocal abilities, though the drums, guitars, and keys are what really carries this record. After I gave this record multiple listens, I came away feeling like the point of the record was to showcase Chucky Booker's production chops more so than Troop's vocal talents. It's almost as if the group's vocals assumed the background role while the song's production takes center stage. My Heart sounds pretty good, almost 22 years after its release. But I will say that Mamacita and My Heart sound a little too much like the style of each song's producers, Levert and Chucky Booker, who were in the midst of their own successful recording careers at the time. Troop released a decent debut album with some good single releases, but had not yet found their own signature sound. And as with any young R&B group, Troop just needed time and space to grow and mature. So it's 1989, and Troop releases their sophomore album, Attitude. I'm Not Soup was the album's first single. Steve Russell, the group's lead singer, co-wrote I'm Not Soup. The song is sort of Troop's West Coast version of the Teddy Riley produced New Jack Swing style that took over and dominated R&B in the late 80s through the early 90s. I'm Not Soup was a top 20 R&B record, peaking at #19 on the R&B charts. I wouldn't put the record in the best of New Jack Swing list, but it's a solid record. Like a lot of R&B groups, Troop would prove to be better known for the ballads in their catalog than their dance records, and the second single from the Attitude album illustrates this point. Spread My Wings was released in January of 1990. The song was written and produced by Chucky Booker. This is a high-quality R&B record, well written, well produced, and well performed. About a man searching for true love, Spread My Wings is one of Chucky Booker's best productions in my opinion. Like My Heart, discussed earlier, Spread My Wings is a Chucky Booker record no doubt. In fact, the song has a similar beginning as Booker's own solo record, Turned Away, which was a #1 R&B record in late July of the previous year, 1989. But Troop does on Spread My Wings what they didn't completely do on My Heart. They took full ownership of the record. They made it their own. And they would do this again in the most remarkable way with the third single from the Attitude album, which I'll touch on a little later. Spread My Wings established the group's identity and highlighted what were at the time not yet proven but clearly underrated vocal talents, particularly that of Steve Russell's lead vocals. Though I'm a big fan of those R&B records featuring rap verses that were popularized in the 90s, the rap verse on Spread My Wings seemed unnecessary. The rhyme, it isn't whack, it doesn't hurt the song, but it doesn't add much to it either. But what does work well on Spread My Wings is the song's last 30 seconds. The drums fade out, followed by the rest of the instruments as the group sings nearly perfect soulful vocals, a cappella style. Spread My Wings is a great song, and quite deservingly of its #1 spot on the R&B charts in the first 2 weeks of April 1990. So while Troop Spread My Wings was on top of the R&B charts, Babyface's Whip Appeal was in the top 5, peaking at #2, but never reaching #1. Before we talk about Whip Appeal, let's do some musical history on Babyface's career preceding the song's release. Babyface is one of the most prolific songwriters and record producers in the history of R&B music and music period. He penned and produced many hits for some of R&B's biggest artists in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. But he's a prominent R&B solo artist in his own right. One could make the argument that Babyface's solo career began under the radar. His debut album, Lovers, released in 1986, went largely unnoticed, even though the album did score a top 10 R&B hit in 1987 with the song I Love You Babe. Written by Babyface and produced by Babyface and L.A. Reid, I Love You Babe is about a man who loves his woman in the scariest way, in spite of the silly and crazy things they do that put a strain on their relationship. It has all of the familiar elements of an 80s R&B record, such as the saxophone-driven bridge. It's classic Babyface as a songwriter and performer right at the start of his solo career. I Love You Babe is unlikely to be a fan's favorite considering Babyface's impressive collection of music, but it's a good song. It's underrated in the sense that it set the stage for what Babyface would offer R&B fans with his sophomore album. Babyface achieved a breakthrough with the release of his 1989 album, Tender Lover. The album's first single, It's No Crime, was co-written by Babyface, L.A. Reid, and Daryl Simmons. Each element of It's No Crime excels, from the verses, chorus, bridge, and the hooks. The chorus is simplistically clever, and the catchy hooks even outshine the solid verses. It's No Crime became Babyface's #1 R&B hit. It spent 2 weeks at #1 in the summer of 1989. Babyface then released the album's second single, Tender Lover. Babyface co-wrote the song with L.A. Reid and Pebbles. In Tender Lover, a man apologizes for breaking a woman's heart and tells her to never give up on love, even though their own relationship went sour. Tender Lover follows the same proven formula of It's No Crime with its vintage 80s R&B bridge and very catchy hooks. And like Tender Lover, it too would become a #1 R&B hit in January 1990. But it was the third single from the Tender Lover album that may be the most memorable track from the LP. And of course I'm talking about the ballad, Whip Appeal. Babyface co-wrote Whip Appeal with Pebbles. The song's first minute is driven by the keys, which sort of set the stage, letting the listener know that she's about to experience more than a typical ballad. Then about 14 seconds in, Babyface lets her know that talking ain't even necessary, instructing her to just relax and let things flow. Babyface and Pebbles are both talented songwriters, and Whip Appeal is one of their crowning jewels. The song is about what Babyface calls a strange kind of relationship that he has with his woman that seems to work well, and he sings confidently on how the way he and his woman communicate in a relationship is better than words. This better way of communicating in a relationship is what Babyface calls the whip appeal. Of course, some listeners assume the whip appeal is strictly physical, sexual. And while that's certainly a major part of what makes the relationship work, the passion in which Babyface sings the song, backed by the soulful production, makes it evident that the whip appeal is about much more than just sex. The refrain of the song's third hook, in which Babyface sings about the whip appeal's effect on him and how it makes him alright, as he says, with whatever his woman wants, is what brings the ballad to its soulful climax. Whip appeal is what I would call sophisticated soul. Love-making within the broader context of a romantic relationship is written and sung about in whip appeal with passion, but with class and in good taste. Song, lyrics, and R&B would get far more blunt and explicit, most of the time unnecessarily so, in the latter part of the 90s. But anyway, Whip Appeal peaked at number 2 on the R&B charts during the same time that Troops Spread My Wings was the number 1 R&B song in April of 1990. So let's dig into the Billboard R&B chart data to do a comparison of the data between Spread My Wings and Whip Appeal in the first few months of 1990. Spread My Wings debuted in the R&B charts in late January of 1990. Whip Appeal's R&B chart debut was 4 weeks later in February. Whip Appeal entered the R&B charts at number 43. Spread My Wings was number 34 on the R&B charts at that time. Spread My Wings entered the top 10 in just 8 weeks after its R&B chart debut. Whip Appeal entered the top 10 in just 5 weeks after its R&B chart debut. So Whip Appeal reached the top 10 in a shorter amount of time, in 3 less weeks than it took Spread My Wings to crack the top 10. In the first 5 weeks of its activity on the R&B charts, Whip Appeal was, on average, about 7 positions lower on the charts than Spread My Wings. But Babyface's ballad had its biggest jump on the R&B charts in the following week after it cracked the charts top 10. The song jumped up 6 spots from number 10 to number 4 during the last week of March. And this was the first time that Whip Appeal was hot on the heels of Spread My Wings, who was at number 3 on the R&B charts at this time. Spread My Wings reached number 1 on the R&B charts on April the 7th of 1990 and stayed on top for 2 weeks. Whip Appeal was number 3 on the R&B charts during Spread My Wings' first week at number 1, and then it peaked at number 2 during Spread My Wings' second and final week at number 1. Whip Appeal took less time to reach its peak position, reaching number 2 in 9 weeks, while Spread My Wings reached its peak position, number 1, in 11 weeks. But ultimately, it was Troops Spread My Wings that kept Babyface's Whip Appeal from reaching number 1 on the R&B charts. Spread My Wings spent the most weeks on the R&B charts, 21 weeks versus Whip Appeal's 16 weeks. So let's quickly take a look back at the pop charts, also known as the Hot 100. During the 2 weeks that Spread My Wings was the number 1 record on the R&B charts, Whip Appeal was a top 20 record on the pop charts. It was number 18 on the Hot 100 in the first week and number 15 on the Hot 100 in the second week. Spread My Wings did not chart on the Hot 100. Whip Appeal peaked at number 6 on the pop charts. Whip Appeal had its best overall chart performance on the R&B and Hot 100 charts combined during a 2-week period in April of 1990. In the week of April 21st, Whip Appeal was number 5 on the R&B charts and number 11 on the Hot 100. And then the next week, the week of April the 28th, the ballad was number 13 on the R&B charts and number 6 on the Hot 100. Whip Appeal was the first of the two records to drop out of the top 10 on the R&B charts, falling 8 spots from number 5 to number 13 during the week of April 28th, just 2 weeks after it peaked at number 2. Spread My Wings had the more dramatic drop out of the R&B top 10, falling 15 spots from number 9 to number 24 a week later. Spread My Wings was the bigger record on the R&B charts in the spring of 1990, but Whip Appeal was the bigger record overall. Okay, so let's do a few categories. Overrated, underrated. I think Spread My Wings is a little underrated, and it's all because of the release of Troop's next single from the Attitude album, a Jackson 5 remake, All I Do Is Think of You. The Jackson 5 remake was a number 1 record in R&B in late June 1990 for Troop, and just a few months after Spread My Wings went number 1. Remarkably, Troop's version of All I Do Is Think of You, it outshines Jackson 5's 1975 rendition, and in doing so, the song ended up overshadowing Spread My Wings. Chucky Booker produced both songs. In a future episode, I may discuss with greater depth Troop's outstanding version of All I Do Is Think of You. So, what's my favorite part of each song? First, Spread My Wings. I really like the hook. It takes the song up a notch or two, both musically and with Steve Russell's lead vocals. As far as Whip Appeal, my favorite part of that record is the third hook that Babyface sings repetitively within the climax of the song. So here's a Did You Know. Eddie Levert of the famed 70s R&B trio The OJs co-produced Troop's Mamacita with his son Gerald Levert and Mark Gordon. Guess who sang background vocals on the title track of Babyface's Tender Lover album? The one and only R&B group, Troop. So allow me a moment now to talk about one of the tracks off of Babyface's Tender Lover album. Soon As I Get Home is an unreleased ballad on Tender Lover. The song was popular with the R&B crowd. It received a lot of radio play in the adult contemporary format. It was on the Quiet Storm playlist, a very R&B radio station in the US. I can remember hearing this song being played on the radio night after night in the 90s. And it's nearly as good as Whip Appeal. In the song's chorus, Babyface sings about doing everything for his woman, from buying her clothes, cooking her dinner, to paying her rent as soon as he gets home from work. And it's hard to imagine any R&B crooner of today's generation making this kind of song. So let's talk about the fine wine factor. How will each song be remembered? Which song has aged the best? I think Spread My Wings will be remembered as Troop's breakthrough song. It's the record that put the R&B world on notice to the talent of the Pasadena, California group. I would say the song is also one of the standout R&B male group records of the 90s, a decade that would start a trend of fewer groups and more solo artists. I think Whip Appeal is one of those essentials, a must-hear when it comes to R&B ballads. It would have to be in the top 5 of any true Babyface fan. It's going to be remembered as the song that established Babyface as one of R&B music's best balladeers. In terms of which song has aged the best, well, both songs have aged very well. It's tough to give the edge to one song over the other. But I will say this, while Whip Appeal sounds as good today as it did in the 90s, in my opinion, Spread My Wings sounds even better today than I remember it sounding in 1990. It's the kind of R&B record that I'm surprised didn't cross over to the pop charts. The lyrics convey the sort of universal love language, coupled with a polished musical sound that you think would have generated much broader appeal. Nevertheless, even though Troop Spread My Wings is a great record and deserved its place at the top spot of the R&B charts in April of 1990, Babyface's Whip Appeal It sounds like a #1 hit record to me. Thanks for listening to the latest episode in the Soulful Charts series, Sounds Like a #1 Hit. If you haven't heard Troop's Spread My Wings or Babyface's Whip Appeal in a while, or you've never heard these songs before, give them a listen. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button. And if you're interested in listening to future episodes, then feel free to subscribe to this channel. Share your comments and join the discussion on whether Babyface's Whip Appeal made a bigger impact than Troop's Spread My Wings. And if you would like to, you can buy me a cup of coffee, which helps to support the production of this new channel. It's totally up to you. Your interest and support of my channel is very appreciated. With that said, be happy, be safe, spread love, enjoy life, and good old soul music.